Yeah, so welcome to my and Ryan's personal branding guide for LinkedIn. So, if we get the ball rolling. So, long story short, the purpose of this guide is to help you understand how LinkedIn can be used for, your personal brand in terms of building a community and creating opportunities that can work in your favor. And when I mention opportunities, what exactly do I mean? So, it's a great question, and ultimately, that involves the likes of gaining sponsorship opportunities, being able to brush shoulders with the right professionals, working at different brands that can offer you those types of opportunities to help you gain further visibility and at the same time create more content which can draw more eyeballs to you with regards to your brand in itself. And after consuming this guide, you're going to have a lot of strong knowledge with regards to how LinkedIn essentially works, ways in which to optimize it towards your favor. And like I mentioned, just getting into the mindset of how to approach and brush shoulders with the right people. Now, why should I use LinkedIn? Again, it's a brilliant question. So again, it's demonstrating what is the actual point of being here. So first and foremost, it's a professional networking tool where a lot of professionals like myself and Ryan have used it, and it's been extremely beneficial from a brand awareness perspective and also a professional perspective. But as we do understand, there is a variety of different types of individuals that will be on this call, those that represent fight promotions, those that represent brands, and of course, fighters. And that's the great thing about it. There's also athletes in which use LinkedIn, which I'll get further on to in just a moment. And that in itself is a brilliant way to help you build your community. And by building your community, you can continue to create content on the platform to help make your opinion count on various different topics across the fight game within itself. And I think the biggest game changer that LinkedIn has proven, well, definitely with myself, and I'm sure Ryan probably can relate as well, is the mindset. Rather than just, for example, rather than just thinking of yourself as a fighter, as an athlete, or whatever you may call it, it gets you into the perspective of being a business opportunity, being a brand, being someone that is able to have influence in terms of providing somebody else with value, as to whether that's monetization, value-driven content, or something similar in that regard. Right, just going to take a sip of water. Now, back to my point about athletes that actually use LinkedIn. So we have Amari Diedrich here, who represents Octagon MMA. And as a matter of fact, in the next couple of weeks, he has a fight coming up, which we wish him very well for. And we also have none other than Alex the Spartan Nicholson. The proof is in the pudding, as he is a really big deal across the fight game, as I'm sure many will know. And of course, a UFC veteran throughout all of his achievements, Max Griffin, who is again, he's got his LinkedIn game on point, followed by Milana, a former one championship fighter within herself, and then one of the most widely recognized footballers on the planet to this day, Jordan Henderson. Now, in terms of that, that is simply credibility with regards to how valuable LinkedIn is proving with athletes that are on the platform in itself. So moving on.
And I'll just add there too, Ash. I mean, one of the things that I've really found interesting about LinkedIn is that some other athletes have crossed over to some athletes in basketball, professional retired athletes, but it's still new enough for other athletes to get on that you can start building your rep and your credibility there today.
Absolutely, that's a really good point, Ryan. Again, it's all about community building, as obviously we both mentioned, and that we are at this point collaboratively doing this today. So, and again, the proof is in the pudding that LinkedIn definitely works for all of the purposes and the values that I've mentioned so far. So, and again, here are some examples that have worked for me. So, for example, with regards to me building my own personal brand to be in this position where I'm providing marketing advice and consults for the likes of fighters, brands, and promotions in the fight game, is first and foremost an individual known as George Parr, who was the founder of Signature Sports Marketing, which essentially focuses on similar stuff to myself around athlete branding. We came across each other organically through a simple post at the time of when I was starting off my my side hustle at the time, which is now my, I'd like to say, full-time profession. And he invited me on for the opportunity to feature on his podcast, talking about athlete branding and the specialties in which I focus on around the fight game and how athletes can best understand ways to brand themselves. And then we have Ryan himself. So initially, I reached out to Ryan, I think it was around about last year at some point. And yeah, we essentially, I saw some content he posted about an update around the UFC or just the fight game in general. I've now connected with him and I saw the similar values in which we entail, and it really just synergized. And I think it got to the point where I was just thinking to myself, we've got to do something collaborative here. We've just got such similar mindsets as to how we are approaching and promoting things around the fight game within itself, and hence why we are here today. And then on the far right, you can see myself having a podcast feature with somebody that is a very close friend of mine, known as Ed Bowers. And he is essentially a sports industry development coach who supports graduates across the sports industry with regards to getting them into the mindset, again, which is that's what LinkedIn is all about, to evolve their mindset of how they can approach opportunities proactively in the sports world, or essentially any kind of industry or profession that they're trying to go into. And from that experience, when he found out about myself starting a sports blog, he essentially wanted to promote me as much as he possibly could, as this could be something that in which is very valuable for developing the sports industry purpose in that sense. And last but by certainly no means least, a feature on Ryan's own podcast himself is Nick Hyler, the creative director at regional MMA promotion in New England and known as Cage Titans. Again, it came across with himself finding my content organically. We decided to network on LinkedIn, and ever since then, we have had various different calls with regards to marketing advice, knowledge, and things in which can help him support Cage Titans to grow their own personal brand, and also transferable lessons that their fighters can learn about being a small business.
Yeah, and I'll say too, just chiming in, that I do 95% of my business through LinkedIn, whether it's researching, connecting, posting, creating content. I mean, it's been a game-changing platform for me as someone who's been on it for over a decade now. And, that's why I've always loved to shed light on it, because I believe that the community itself is what enriches it, and, pulling people onto it, educating them. So it's all of a worthwhile venture for us all.
Yeah, Ryan's hit the absolute nail on the head right there. And again, that key terms: networking, mindset, community building, and much, much more, which we're going to find out now. So to understand the logistics of LinkedIn, I do appreciate it's quite a long list, such as selecting a profile picture, headline, about section, cover photo, audio recordings, and I won't waste too much time just reading off what you can already see for yourself. So let's just dive into it. So first and foremost, we have profile picture. So essentially, long story short, it's all about making a good first impression as to what you want the impression to be for somebody coming to visit your profile. So on the left, we have Milana, who is obviously in her athletic gear, which demonstrates she is most likely, within the fitness industry, an elite level athlete, so forth. Similar applies with Amari, as you can see in the middle, with himself having the Octagon MMA brand on his fight gear too, walking into the octagon, ready for a fight. And in that sense, it's demonstrating, again, he is an elite level athlete within the combat sports space. And then on the right-hand side, you've also got Jordan Henderson, who is someone, again, elite level footballer. So it's likely also dependent on your profile across various social media channels or in sport in general. It can be a position where you can be a lot more flexible with that. But as you can see with Jordan's profile pic, it is just very comprehensive, clear, and visible. And then you've got Erin Kennedy, MBE, at the bottom in the Team GB rowing kit. Again, got the national lottery sponsor, which establishes credibility. And that's another thing as well. If you have sponsors and stuff like that, do try and include them within your profile picture as well. So, yep, that is Erin's example. And then on the right, you've also got Alex Nicholson, who is, again, with LinkedIn being a professional network, he's obviously gone for the suited and boutique look, which he looks absolutely sharp with, may I say, particularly the beard. And you've also got the red background as well, which we'll find out more with regards to how color coding contributes towards athlete branding within itself. And then we have the headline. So this is something which is really fantastic for a term known as search engine optimization. So long story short, what this means in in basic terms is help, search engine optimization is the way to, for example, how a keyword can help generate more viewers, more visibility, and just more awareness to your brand via what people tend to search online. So in terms of the structure, you've got, again, 220 characters as the limit. And generally, as a fighter or as someone that is representing the fight game, try and use values which represent your personal brand and just your ethics in general. So again, with Milana here, she's gone on to speak about herself being, someone that empowers women in sports as an ambassador, talking about her credibility with university studies and also arts and culture. And at the same time, if you currently already have sponsors, use that as a part of giving yourself leverage in terms of establishing your credibility further. Or if you are somebody that is looking for sponsorship opportunities, make that clear within your headline, because I certainly recommend it will help people understand what one of your purposes is on the platform in itself.
Yeah, and one of the things here too is that people want to often like put in like what their title is or what their position is, and it's really not what that's for. This is where, as people are looking for you, as people are finding you, this is where you're kind of catching them. This is your hook. No one cares that you're a manager at X and X. They want to see like, who is this person? And that is the first thing people are seeing from when they're finding your name online or in search as they go through your profiles or through lists of people on the platform.
Yes, Brian's absolutely right there. And moving on to the about section, I've chosen to screenshot Erin Kennedy, MBE's version of this, because I think it's super comprehensive and demonstrates what the about section is all about. So again, this is another very influential part of the search engine optimization elements of LinkedIn. So as you can tell, with regards to the core fundamentals and the important parts of it, is summarizing yourself, being able to tell your story, making your values clear once again, and you have a much wider character limit as well with 3,000 characters. And yeah, so in terms of how generally she has been able to optimize her about section, she's gone on to talk about herself being an elite level athlete as a Paralympist, and at the same time listing her achievements, also going into the personal elements of her own story, such as unfortunately being diagnosed with cancer, but now she is now cancer free, which we are very blessed to hear. And then, of course, doing where she had her education, things and additional things she's done outside of sports, such as being a keynote speaker, also values that she's gained through her own work in entities and other entities away from sports, such as, being organized, being driven, and that in itself can pay dividends in regards to herself, essentially branding herself to be more than just an athlete. And at that same time, being a brand, getting into the mindset. She clearly understands how the LinkedIn element works with regards to personal branding and as an athlete. And again, just continuously just plucking away at that. And with regards to the about section, again, include those keywords, include those, personal elements, as again, despite it being a professional platform in the fight game, particularly, it's obviously very different for yourselves as fighters, because it is a lot more inclusive. And at the same time, there will be brands that want to appreciate that. And also is something in which will be unique about yourself. So moving on to the elements of a cover photo. So once again, we have Alex the Spartan Nicholson, I may say. So as I mentioned, with his profile picture, he's got the red in the background, and this has proven to be very beneficial for like color coding. So again, you've got himself using it with the typography as a professional athlete, and then you've also got the social handles of his Instagram and his and his email in terms of being read to. And what this is really beneficial for is color coding plays a big part of branding recognition. So for example, I was on my phone the other day and I saw a notification pop up, which was just like an orange square. And that in itself just gave me the recognition straight away. Oh, I've got a notification on Strava. So again, from that element itself, if you're consistent enough with it, it can really pay big dividends for you long term as you continue to build your network, build your community, and many other things. Plus, at the same time, he's got his services on point with regards to a professional athlete, available training, ambassadorship, and combat sports business. And again, contact me today. So essentially, he's wrapped up his core purposes and what he's on the platform for within a sentence.
And this is something that can be done easily on platforms like Canva, where there's loads of templates and ways for people to produce those easily, so you can have something professional, clear, and something that will make you look like you're taking your personal branding to the next level.
Absolutely. And also another element on that is if you want to be a bit more potentially you may have funds or investments to put into your personal brand further, you can also use tools such as Photoshop. But again, as I understand, with the likes of the fight game, time is very valuable. And if you need somebody to do this for you, I can certainly support you on that journey to build your personal brand. And so I'm sure Ryan can too. Now, moving on to the audio recording element. So as you understand, the fight game is very inclusive with loads of different cultures, which we are absolutely blessed for. But at the same time, that comes with a bit of a challenge with, at first, not being able to pronounce potential names properly, such as Khabib often being mispronounced instead of Habib, Kamaru Usman with Usman, Adesanya rather than Adesanya. So that is exactly what the audio recording element is for. And at the same time, you've got a maximum of 10 seconds to really optimize it. So with, for example, fighters, something that could be really beneficial here is, using a tagline you may have, or your general catchphrase, such as, who's a great one? So again, that could be Kamaru, the Nigerian Nightmare Usman, or Alexander Usyk with the general "I am feel" catchphrase, and all of this just contributes towards the elements of branding. Now, with the featured section, I have included Milana's right here. And essentially speaking, this is more moving on to the credibility establishment part of LinkedIn. So really just demonstrating to others the value in which you can bring there. So she's obviously got herself featuring on a good few podcasts. And at the same time, if you're still building out and you haven't essentially had that chance to really demonstrate your value to, the different areas, you can also focus on potential bits of content that have scored high engagement, or things that, or essentially not necessarily all about engagement, just posts that you have put on the platform that are really demonstrating your purpose of being there. And by doing so, that will help to identify, if you follow essentially like the stuff that me and Ryan have spoken about so far, it essentially works like a skeleton in the terms of just all of the things connecting together and working together. So with regards to that, that is essentially the way to go about maximizing your featured section. Now, with regards to experience, this I would say is not a massive deal breaker, but then again, it can make a difference just with a few slight tweaks. So with each part of your experience, it doesn't have to be so professional like myself doing what I've done with mine, but instead, if you're a fighter, essentially demonstrating, the basic stuff with, such as the records in which you've created across different promotions, the impacts which are across across the promotions and the fights in which you've had, such as, Jorge Masvidal, if he was using LinkedIn, he would use, for example, himself having the fastest knockout in UFC history. So essentially those groundbreaking and revolutionizing moments that you've made. And at the same time, with regards to combat sports brands as well, if you're like a creative director that may work at a promotion, you can talk about, for example, athletes in which you've interviewed, such as what I've done with regards to the Oporto Sports opportunity. And again, it's not a resume. It's essentially something else that you can use to establish your credibility. So treat it like that.
Yeah, and when we say not a resume, it's really about featuring the parts of you that you want people to see. So you don't need to have, oh, I was a busboy at X restaurant, or I was a line cook here. Those are maybe parts of you, but they're not who you're trying to present yourself in. As you try to build your personal brand, it might not be the best way to present yourself.
And similar applies with education as a result of it here. So again, you do not need to go to the extreme like I have done with my education, of course, studying at Solent University, which I'll always be proud of. But at the same time, again, use it to demonstrate what you want people to hear about yourself, such as if you are, yeah, again, if you are a fighter, if you are a brand, just, just again, credibility, just focus on that. And now, content creation. This is where I was actually quite blown away, and really, it really felt like a proud moment seeing Amari being able to do this, because this is what we are trying to encourage you guys to do across the platform. In terms of, he has spoken here about something which is a big challenge for a lot of fighters in terms of how to generate income through sponsorships, and he has essentially summarized key points here with regards to where things can improve with fighters, and again, the mindset, rather than, if you are particularly if you're an upcoming fighter, being in a position where you can just approach other brands and have the confidence to do so, with regards to telling them about your story, finding values which resonate with yourself through additional research or anything like that, is something which can pay big dividends. And as a matter of fact, it could even be like, local businesses that are close to your area. They'll appreciate the endorsements that you're going to provide them, and potentially, reaching new audiences, and just yourself being in that position where you've reached out proactively. And what that does is it gets you into the mindset of being able to create your own opportunities, just like myself and Ryan have done with our brands, to be able to be in this position, to have the honor of supporting you to this day. And then we have content formats. Generally speaking, this is a rule that applies across social media in general. So the more you use specific features that a channel has, such as carousel posts on Instagram, alt text on X/Twitter, or again, you can do the same with carousel posts on Instagram as well, having alt text descriptions, which are very valuable for those who have visual impairments. You're more likely to gain further visibility, because social media and the SEO specifically on those platforms is very it's just the more comprehensive and understandable you're able to make your content, the more likely it is to rank higher on individual search feeds. And with Amari, what he's done here, LinkedIn has its own personalized carousel format. And as you can see, with regards to what he has done, is the color code, the color brandings for that can be something which you do as a part of your color codes. And at the same time, just making short and sweet templates with regards to the text he has, and that can pay dividends in itself if followed consistently, just like everything else we've mentioned thus far.
And just to add there too, Ash, the using that format is a great one. That finding the things that LinkedIn is prioritizing like that is the way to move forward for sure.
Of course. Now we are currently running out of time. So again, I'll try and be as succinct as possible with this. How to analyze and evaluate your content. So you've got the 4 key metrics here. Post impressions, which essentially summarizes how many people see your content through the content in which you create. You've got the follower counts, which is essentially, again, the amount of people you follow on your profile. Profile viewers, which is specifically focusing on the amount of people that you have made an impression towards, rather than just the total number of counts of impressions. And then search appearances, which is all about the amount of people you've made an appearance for. And then value is around, and the value of this is helping to understand how to make your content as valuable and as engaging as possible for people you're trying to entice.
And as we wrap up here, just remember that this is in the creator format. So enabling yourself as a creator is definitely one of the most recommended things on the LinkedIn platform.
Right. Thank you very much for listening in. And if you have any questions, do feel free to get in touch with me and Ryan.
Thank you.